nomadic parents. So I've been spending the last couple months pruning, just trying, mainly I'm pruning up to get more visibility in the garden, so easier to watch the kids wherever they are. But it'll also help to clean out the underbrush and to help some of these trees / bushes get a little taller. And I wanted to show you something now that it's clearly visible. I've spoken about how this ground is not technically native soil, even though it would seem to be the case. And if we put native plants in, they would grow more easily because they're acclimatized and they're used to this soil and this environment. But this soil was actually compressed and adulterated for many years. There were bungalows here, there are cement slurries, there's asphalt. So what's happened is you can see these bushes, there's a lot of low growth to the ground, and I'm going to show you. You can see a lot about what's going on beneath the ground based on the growth above the ground. So you can look here and you can see how the upper growth grew along the ground, like horizontal to the ground, rather than sending up a straight vertical tree-like limb. There's lots of multi-growth, right? So that's because it doesn't have a really strong taproot that it could send straight down. So it adapted by sending multiple taproots, which you can see exemplified in the above ground. So this is not the only one. This is the coyote bush that's been here for a while. And this is the laurel sumac, but I'm going to show you that it did the same thing. It's really close by, close to the asphalt, and you can see a lot of this growth right along the ground, right? So I pruned a lot of the small branches. I'm going to try to get the main trunk stronger so it'll grow into a small tree, which will give the kids some shade and they can sit and play in here. But you can see how it also has a similar growth pattern to the coyote bush, because it's very difficult for it to send a really strong taproot straight down to make it drought resistant. These are the lemonade berries, and these also have a similar structure where they're growing their branches parallel to the ground, spreading out much more horizontally than vertically. So I pruned some of those off, trying to get some height, make it a little more visible and a little more shade. It'll grow a little more slowly vertically just because it's having difficulty reaching down, but I'm hoping over time the more roots that send down deep, the more support they'll have for each other, and they'll make allowances for other roots and they'll break up the soil a little bit. This area was actually really sandy and a lot more asphalt, really close to the playground. Here's the ash tree, and this is also an example of, you can see the growth is very low to the ground and horizontal, but we've got some tall growth this year because of the rains, and I am really hopeful that we can prune this taller. I'm going to give it a little bit longer before I prune off some of these lower branches. It doesn't have as high a growth rate as the laurel sumac or the coyote bush, so I want to give it another year at least before I start really pruning it into the desired shape. But you can see I can kind of tell what's going on underground based on the branches and the leaves above ground. Toyon, similar sort of situation. It's got some nice tall growth, which I'm trying to encourage, and you can see the sprawling underneath. So the plants that I've been showing you are considered small trees, large bushes. They can actually grow into tree forms or they can stay bushes, and a lot of that depends on both the soil and the weather, location. So this is another lemonade berry that's smaller. This one, even though it was planted the same time as the other ones, it doesn't have enough growth that I feel comfortable pruning it back too much this year. I'll give it another year. Large laurel sumac that's at the corner of the classrooms, which I've neglected for a little while. This is the one that's been here for about a decade, and so it has some nice strong growth. When I first took it over, I tried to prune up some height. You can see we've got a central trunk that I'm trying to make it more into tree-like form, but we've also got a lot of horizontal, like spider legs. So I am trying to clean it up, but also keep it healthy. The kids love playing over here, so I definitely want to make it safe and shade, and we can, if it goes as planned, I can even move these stumps closer to the tree to give the kids even more shade. But this will take a little more work because this is a massive laurel sumac, and these laurel sumacs can actually get really tall. Like I've seen them like 30 feet tall easily, but it really depends on if they can get their roots down deep and get enough water to get that height on them. But they adapt as needed to the weather and the soil. Really wonderfully adapted plant. The one in my yard is very much a straight trunk because in a home garden the soil is a little bit different, tend to be a little more water, looser, that sort of thing. So, but in this compacted soil, you can see a little bit more of a sprawling trunk, which is nice, and it's good for the little kids too. So I don't want it to get too tall. I'd like to keep the shade low and comfortable and give them something to play in, but I need to get it cleaned up and safe. Thank you.